I'm a writer from Berlin, living in Berlin in Germany, and I've always been fascinated by dreams. And how it came that I wrote this book is that occasionally, I think it was in 2009 or something like that, I read Sigmund Freud's interpretation of dreams. And which is a fascinating reading, but completely out of date. And I thought, well, look, now what is the book considered relevant about dreams? And it was Sigmund Freud. And I thought, well, it can't be true. It's 100 years later. So you need a new authoritative book on dreams and what they are. And I couldn't find one, so I decided to write one.
Στέφαν, σύμφωνα με τις μελέτες, αλλά και βλέποντας την αύξηση της κατανάλωσης των βοηθημάτων για τον ύπνο, νομίζω πως μπορούμε να πούμε με βεβαιότητα ότι η ποιότητα του ύπνου μας έχει χειροτερεύσει. Φυσικό επόμενο είναι να έχει επηρεάσει αυτό και τα όνειρά μας. Ωστόσο, υπάρχουν μελέτες που το αποδεικνύουν.
There was a very nice study from Greece, by the way, which showed that among the population of Greece, more than 40% of citizens complained about sleep disorders, far more than before the pandemic. And of course, it was just a consequence of psychological stress of the pandemic. Now, sleeplessness has taken alarmingly off during the early 2000 years. And interestingly, there is a coincidence with the rise of the internet, first of the internet and then of mobile devices, where we have at every moment and everywhere the possibility to entertain ourselves. And it seems quite obvious that we make use of that facility far more than is good for our sleep. So this is what is happening. And in a way, I meant my book also to be an appreciation of sleep and dreams. What I wanted to convey is that, sleep is not a period in our lives which is passive and where there is not much happening, but quite to the contrary. When we sleep, there happens a lot in our brains, and it is interesting to watch what happens. And dreams is precisely the subjective experience of what happens during sleep. So my hope is that if people come to reappreciate their dreams, it will help them to sleep more and better.
Η πιο πρόσφατη μελέτη που έχεις χρησιμοποιήσει για τη συγγραφή του βιβλίου σου μας πάει πίσω στο 2014. Έχουν περάσει σχεδόν 8 χρόνια από τότε. Θα ήθελες, αν ξανάγραφε σήμερα το βιβλίο, να προσθέσεις κάποια καινούρια ευρήματα από μελέτες που έγιναν σε αυτό το χρονικό διάστημα?
I would not revoke one thing that is in the book. So everything that has been said then still holds now. I would probably add some paragraphs about the experience of the pandemic. And from the standpoint of fundamental research, what has been most interesting is what we learned about sleep in non-human beings. That is animals on the one hand and machines, a computer on the other hand. Now, computers, of course, don't truly sleep, but to put it bluntly, you could say they should. So it's becoming clearer and clearer in artificial intelligence research that if you want to build something like a meaningful artificial intelligence, it would need some analogous to a facility to sleep and to dream. And to this day, we don't know exactly what that is. But it is clear that something like that should be there. Even more striking, I found what have been found out in the last decade or so about sleep in animals. And we know now that there is phase sleep and hence an analogous to dream sleep in many creatures. And in many creatures whose brains we deem very simple, like zebrafish, octopus, even with bees, has been found that they have roughly some analogous to REM sleep. Now, of course, we don't know what a bee experiences when she sleeps, but what's becoming very clear, both from the artificial intelligence as from the biology side, that sleeping and dreaming is a very, very fundamental ability we need for our minds to function.
Στο βιβλίο σου γράφεις ότι είναι πολύ πιθανότερο να βιώσουμε ελεύθερη βούληση στα όνειρά μας σε σχέση με τον πραγματικό κόσμο. Αυτό σημαίνει ότι τελικά τα όνειρά μας δείχνουν πως είμαστε πιο κοντά στην πλατωνική φιλοσοφία ή στην αριστοτελική?
Well, I think these are actually two different questions, of which the second is far easier to answer than the first. So your first question was about free will, and I'm really not sure how much research on dreams can contribute to this notoriously difficult issue. I'm really skeptical about this. The second question about Plato and Aristotle is a really fascinating one, and this is a question where indeed research on dreaming, well, I would be hopeful that it can contribute to solve a philosophical riddle that is at least 2,000 years old. Now, as you know, so to say, the godfathers of Western philosophy, namely Plato and Aristotle, had very different ideas where our conceptions come from. So Plato famously argued that they are innate, whereas Aristotle countered that they come from perception. Now, what's fascinating about and normally it's really hard to distinguish, right? Because we have perception all the time. Now, but when you dream, your perception is shut off. So this gives you a means to see, well, do you still have conceptions, and what kinds of conceptions do you have if there is no conceptions, if there is no perception. And of course, we form all kinds of images and ideas. And there has been fascinating research with what goes on with people who don't have visual perception at all, that is, who are congenitally blind, who were born blind. And it turned out that they indeed dream in images. Now, where do those images come from? They never perceived images. This tips the balance in favor of Platon's idea that there must be at least, I would say now, there must be at least an innate contribution. Now, to our conceptions. Now, Plato, of course, would have been much more radical than that, and would have said, well, it's all innate. I wouldn't go so far, and I think the philosophers who is corroborated best what we know now from dreaming is indeed Immanuel Kant with his innate forms of intuition. So he would argue that there are innate forms of the intuition or of conception, which are like vessels we use to fill with our ideas and images. So in that, Aristotle, if you take him literally, was wrong, and that has been shown now empirically. Isn't that a nice result?
Στο βιβλίο σου γράφεις ότι στα όνειρά μας βιώνουμε χιλιάδες διαφορετικές πραγματικότητες. Και μερικές φορές όταν ξυπνάμε το πρωί έχουμε βρει τη λύση σε ένα πρόβλημά μας. Αυτό μου θυμίζει λίγο τον τρόπο λειτουργίας ενός κβαντικού υπολογιστή. Θα μπορούσαμε να ισχυριστούμε ότι ο νους μας λειτουργεί όπως ένας κβαντικός υπολογιστής?
I think we have a very hard time to show any quantum phenomena in the brain if taken in a literal way, and the reason is that the brain is warm and wet, and thermal fluctuation, which you have everywhere when something is warm, would always override quantum fluctuations. If you want to argue that the brain is working like a quantum computer, you can only do so, as we know now, in a metaphorical way. That is, no, you can't take one-to-one how a quantum computer works and say the brain works exactly in the same way. There is just a metaphorical analogy, and the metaphorical analogy is that both devices, namely the quantum computer and the brain, as you say, play with different and even contradictory solutions to a problem. And those different solutions are kind of superposed to each other. And because we are able to play with possible world, we are able to be creative at all. But the kind of the mechanics behind it, from a mechanistic point of view, the working of the brain is very different from that of a quantum computer.
Κάποια πρόσφατα επιστημονικά πειράματα μας έχουν ανησυχήσει γιατί φοβόμαστε μήπως οι επιστήμονες αποκτήσουν τη δυνατότητα να διαβάζουν τη σκέψη μας. Θεωρείς ότι θα μπορούσε να συμβεί αυτό με την αξιοποίηση των ονείρων, δηλαδή οι επιστήμονες να χρησιμοποιήσουν τα όνειρά μας για να διαβάσουν τη σκέψη μας?
In my book, I describe an early experiment where exactly that has been done. The first experiment of that kind has been done in Kyoto, Japan, where researchers through magnetic resonance imagery have indeed been able to read in real time what a person is dreaming. And in the meantime, these experiments have been replicated, among others, in Munich, Germany, and other places. So that works, but you might be surprised if I tell you it's not that what I'm afraid of. Why not? Because you need a very strong individual contributions. You need a very long preparation for these experiments. To put it vividly, you must give the researchers the opportunity to come to know your brain. And this won't work against a person's will. So at the moment, this is not what I'm afraid of. Far more real at this time and more frightening, I find technologies where researchers, but also the advertising industry is trying to incubate dreams by giving you stimuli which they hope would then come up in your dreams. So there has been a notorious American beer ad for course beer who has been trying to do exactly that. Now, I do not believe that the sales of course beer have soared due to that advertisement. But this is because the technologies are still very primitive and it is early days. And this I find a real possibility I'm afraid of, and I would warn against, and I would urge legislators for a ban on such technologies, at least in advertising, because we know how powerful dreams are and how powerful they are in learning and habit formation. And I don't want my learning and habit formation be controlled by an advertisement agency through my dreams.